I've personally gone into crawl spaces, they had about 23 jack posts because they just kept fixing. That's a very expensive overtime method. If you don't take care of the moisture causing these issues, then you're going to continuously add more wood, add more joists, add more jack posts, add more footings, and you're going to do all
because you're not resolving the actual issue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Dore Podcast, where we spotlight the people, ideas, and businesses keeping Ottawa running. From contractors to real estate investors, entrepreneurs to industry experts, we dive into real conversations and help grow everybody's pie.
Episode 49, Procore Foundations.
Welcome back to another episode of the Dore Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders, innovators, and local experts shaping Ottawa's real estate and property landscape. I'm your host, Dan Dore, and today we've got another fantastic guest. I think we're having a lot of fun today.
Yeah, I think so too.
Your first podcast, you were saying it?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Podcast.
Nothing like breaking the ice. So you're with Procore Foundation Repair Systems,
Yep.
a company known for specializing in structural reinforcement, foundation waterproofing, Crawlspace encapsulation. That's a new one. I'm curious to hear about that. And advanced dehumidification solutions.
Yep.
So please welcome Corey Mathieson to the show.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So Corey, Procore Foundation Repair Systems focuses heavily on diagnosing issues beneath the surface. So what's the most common misconception homeowners or investors, actually for that type, have about early foundation warning signs?
Well, I mean,
because usually we see a leak and it's like, we probably could have figured that out a long time ago, right?
No, fair enough.
Enough.
I mean, typically, you have your system around your home that protects your house from water, right? Over time, as your home gets older, if it's not obviously attended to, if it's not taken care of, if it's not replaced, it's unfortunately going to get worse, right? So we can go into the details, but obviously that'd be a more lengthy conversation. But let's go to something more simple. Let's say you look down and you see a crack on your foundation wall. Some people might look at it and go, oh, not a big deal. It's just a simple crack. Some people might think, oh my goodness, something is really bad with my foundation. And they start thinking high numbers. They start thinking engineers. Realistically, it's always good to have us over, come and take a look at it. So sometimes you might have a crack in the parging, but there's no actual crack in the foundation. So at that point, it's just parging. It's mostly cosmetic. But if there is a crack in the foundation, it is an early sign that there is something bigger going on. So yes, we can always come in and patch it, fix it, reinforce it. But if you don't take care of the larger issue at hand, then unfortunately you will end up bigger issues down the road.
And when you talk about systems that protect the home, that wear down, are you talking about like waterproofing? Or are you talking about weeping tiles? What exactly are you referring to when you say systems that wear down over time?
And a good question.
Yeah.
So you have whatever membrane or system that you have in your foundation wall over time, over 40, 60 years, sitting in a very wet environment, sometimes over time, we'll start to delaminate. We'll start to have leaks within the system. Drainage board, after dealing with frost heaving, because we are in Canada, warm days, cold winters. Over time, that will end up having issues too, but mostly your weeping tile. If there is no drain or there is no cavity for the water to move away from your foundation to be appropriately taken care of, then the water gets trapped against your foundation wall. That can lead to hydrostatic pressure. And if the water or the wet soil gets so high to a point where it gets within the freezing level or frost level, then that water freezes, expands, and creates more pressure on your foundation wall.
And then I guess you have that compounded by the fact that I'm assuming older homes don't necessarily have any protection outside. Am I mistaken with that? Because that's a newer phenomenon, I think. No? Is it?
It definitely does, because when you start going into, let's say, early 1900s, let's say 1930s, 1940s, they have more of a clay tile. And again, it's not the plastic. Over time, that starts to break down. Sometimes they collapse, and then all of a sudden the water cannot go through and it gets trapped.
Okay.
Before that, you have your stone and rubble foundations, which did not have waterproofing techniques, but those houses have been around for about 100 years.
That's right.
So you have to keep that in mind too.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, that's interesting for sure. So your company obviously handles major structural issues,
yes,
from what I can gather. Yeah. So can you walk us through, say, a project where structural reinforcement made the biggest difference in providing long-term damage prevention. Like, do you have an example of where you first saw something and you went into, rejigged the foundation that it prevented, escalation of issues going down the pipes? Or
For sure, definitely. There was one home over by Dunrobin. We wanted to go take a look at it. There were some structural cracks. Okay,
Yep.
Maybe there was some settling. So once we dug down, we kind of have an idea of what could have been the issue. But again, once you dig down, we don't have X-ray vision. We can't see what the issue actually is sometimes, right? We can see the symptoms. And we do our best to draw from those symptoms to come up with, the possibilities of what could be wrong. But once we dig down, then we see something a bit more, something different. So one way of something being different or altered is we dug down. We found that, so you have your foundation wall, sits on a footing. The footing basically widens the amount of, structural pressure pushing down, and easier to kind of hold up your foundation wall. Now we went down, the footing was in perfect condition. But what ended up happening, especially in the garage situation, the soil on the inside and the outside got cold, would freeze, and ended up heaving up the foundation. And then as spring came and everything melted, silt and sediment started going underneath the foundation wall. So at one point, there was probably a nice mud gap between the footing and the foundation wall of about 5 to 6 inches.
Whoa. Okay.
So completely different methodology to fix that situation.
Okay.
But we brought an engineer and we took care of it appropriately, and the client was very happy after that.
And is that like a fairly new build, or is that like something?
No, that was actually a newer build.
Okay.
I would say this one was probably built in the 80s or 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Thinking back.
Yeah.
We had another one over in Chelsea where we saw, it was hard to see because there's so many fixes done to it. But once we dug down, we ended up finding out that the footing was just crumbling into pieces, and the foundation wall was.
Is that because
completely
water
heaved in.
is always, it's like sitting in water? Is that?
I think that was a mixture of whoever did the pour.
Right. Okay. The quality of concrete.
Exactly. It might have been the
Okay.
quality of the concrete. Maybe it was too wet. Different types of materials that were used. But obviously the water was not being pulled away from the area either, creating a lot more instability and frost heavage and issues there too.
And so how did the homeowner figure out that they had an issue? Like because typically a crack, it's fairly easy. Sometimes you say it may just be the purging, but sometimes it's a bit more serious. But what are they seeing for it to say, whoa, there may be an issue, and to reach out to you? Because obviously those are, it's not like you're about to decide to dig today and go and find that out. Something's showing up, right?
So in the first instance, there was cracks in the brick. And they were they weren't just going one direction. They're kind of like spidering out. So it was really hard to kind of judge that one. There was a lot of movement involved in that situation. In the second one, they just noticed there was a slope upstairs because they actually had their kitchen above their this garage section as well.
Okay.
So they noticed, it's starting to slope. Something's going on here.
You mean like the floor slope?
Exactly, yeah. So the floor was sloped itself. So then as we went down, we also realized that there were just layers and layers of fixes. So you couldn't actually see how much this had caused, what was causing the issue, or any of that other fun issues too.
What a mess.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, before I bought my first house, bit naive, this is years ago, and we get an inspector coming in and we're all excited. We think we're buying this house. And long story short, he's like, something's off with this house. So he brings us in the basement, and in the basement, the support posts were actually crooked.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So then he found out that as it was all block foundations, but I guess over the years, the house kind of shifted to one side.
Yeah.
So they saw cracks in every room, in the ceilings in every room on the main floor.
Yeah.
And then when we went and looked at the outside, they had actually poured a pony wall on one side of the house.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, I know, for sure. Yeah.
So that inspection saved us quite the mess. But I can imagine, like when you're talking about they did multiple fixes to try to address the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of our inspections is when we show up to a home and there's something brand new. That's always a good question as to why is this brand new?
Yeah.
When was this fixed? When was this reiterated? So a lot of issues where people buy a home and all of a sudden they have water coming in and then we get called in and the whole basement is all redone. That means they just had a water issue.
Yeah.
They did something very small and minor to fix it enough, The insurance company covered everything in the inside, and then they went to sell the house. Says, yeah, there was a problem, but we fixed it. But did it actually ultimately fix it? So same situation if you have a foundation crack and it's leaking from that crack. Okay, so you can inject it, you can do whatever you want to that crack to stop the water from coming through, but you're not taking care of the immediate issue or the underlying issue outside the house. What's happening to the water? Is it still flowing away from that area?
Yeah.
Or are you going to have another issue right next to it down the road?
Yeah.
Or will that crack re-leak again?
These are big, issues if they don't get resolved properly, right?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah,
so whether you just didn't see it, didn't notice it, or you're just kind of pushing it off, water issues as well as structural issues, once they start to kind of occur, they do start to exponentially get worse. And that's mostly because once there's a leak, a trickle turns into a river, turns into a lake kind of thing. Or when it comes to structural issues, you have your downward pressure. If something moves, that means there's more of a lateral, of a horizontal pressure going on. And that means that suddenly as this gets worse, it's going to start moving faster.
Right.
Or this way, or shearing. So those are always things to implicate.
The joys, hopefully, that most people don't want to deal with, but when they do, it's,
Just cover yourself, make sure you know what's going on. If anything, if we come in and take a look at it, at least you know what you will end up having to do in the future. Give yourself some time. But if you just wait until the last minute, when it gets even worse, and that's when you start having to rebuild your foundation. And then those are the situations we show up. And those aren't always the good times to bring in and start chatting. At this point,
I'm a nice guy, but
we're past this point. We know the engineers are going to be recommending this at this point because it's past a fix, and now it's at a rebuild, and that's when you start getting pony walls.
I've seen a couple of houses I saw where you could literally put your hand in the crack in the foundation, so you're like, something's definitely off there.
Exactly. Exactly.
So obviously, foundation waterproofing is a huge part of what you do, I believe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's one thing that property owners should understand about water intrusion and that most people underestimate? What is it exactly about that? It's always, I have an inspector that used to work for us, and he always say, sometimes the best fix is the easiest fix. Whereas, if you get water infiltration, number one, you always want water. You have to always go further away from the house and not always go, and test the foundation all the time. What do people underestimate when it comes to that? Is there, simple things they should be doing to try to prevent that from happening? Or
no, there's a lot of good things, especially when your home is brand new. A lot of people think, brand new house, I don't have to worry about this for 30 years. Whether it's a brand new home or you bought it and it's 40 years old, or you bought it and it's 80 years old or 110 years old, right? A lot of good things to keep in mind. Housekeeping options would be to ensure that the soil is sloped away from the house. So any rainwater, anything shedding off the house itself will not come to the house and pool. And that really oversaturates the soil. Exactly. The surface tension water flows away from the house. Once you start getting pooling effects around your home, that will oversaturate the soil, which could cause water issues, but also makes a big issue when the freeze comes. When everything's basically, you put your water bottle in the freezer, it's going to expand, right? And that's what happens on a much larger scale next to your home. So we call that frost heavage.
At Dore, we're more than just leasing agents, we're rental matchmakers. Our team is dedicated to matching the right tenants with the perfect home. With personalized service and a deep understanding of the rental market, we're here to help you find a place that you'll love. Inquire today and rent from people who care.
Another one would be downspouts. So we recommend having a downspout at least over 8 to 10 feet away from the house. As much as it's not visually great, it's keeping the water away from your foundation, which means less water is moving towards your weeping tile, which means it's bringing less silt and sediment towards your weeping tile, which means it will last longer.
Yeah, and I mean, and you look at the suburbs now where the houses are built 3 feet apart.
Yes.
Those are tougher to do. I guess they just have to redirect it from the backyard or whichever, because obviously you get, between houses, no grass. So water needs to go somewhere. So
for sure. It's all just basically stone. Stonework.
Yeah.
And the problem with stones is once you put stones down, you don't know how the soil is sloping underneath that too, right? So a lot of people are like, I'm going to add stones against my house, my foundation. Well, let's say your the slopage on top goes away from the house, but the soil underneath is sloping towards the house. So it's like having a glass of water.
Yeah.
And having a glass.
Yeah.
Fill it with ice cubes, and you pour water. Is the water going to sit on top of the ice cubes?
Yeah, of course not.
No, it's going to go right to the bottom.
And how would you know that? I mean, obviously, apart from the pavers actually coming in or whichever, typically you wouldn't know that, right?
Normally, I would recommend just take a shovel, pull the rocks away from that section, and see if the soil is also sloping away.
Oh, I see.
And then you're like, okay, definitely we're good to go. Okay. Normally in those homes, because they're so close together, they put a lot of the stones, but then they'll put a weeping tile down the center or like a surface drain to bring the water away, but not in every instance, obviously. Okay. Yeah, towards the street. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if you have your downspouts, do your best not to, obviously have them extended away from your home, and do your best not to position them towards your neighbors.
Or even sometimes in the driveway for it gets slippery or whichever. It's always a bit of depending on how the house and where you can push water. It's not always it's not always simple to redirect water away, and especially 8 to 10 feet. Obviously, I think that's ideally. Yeah. But a lot of houses, I think, have the limitation.
Well, that's when a lot of people do the underground downspouts, right? And they run it away, which is practically makes sense. But what happens in the winter?
Yeah.
All that underground freezes.
That's right.
So, and then all of a sudden the water just gets backed up your eaves trough.
That's right.
And a good way to
see the ice build up in the bottom of those.
A good way, if you're wondering if your eaves trough gets backed up the downspout. I mean, I'm not an eaves trough specialist, but put your hands around your downspout. And on the back, you'll have these pleats that are folded in.
Yep.
Now, if you suddenly notice they're unfolding and it's not flat on the back and it kind of creates this kind of point in the center, that means water is sat in there and frozen and pushed and expanded. They're built that way to expand.
Okay.
But then you'll know that the bottom is not getting the water away. Right.
Oh, that's a good way. So if you're not seeing visually where the water and the ice buildup is happening.
Yeah. Okay. When are you sitting outside your house and kind of looking up? Not many
those are just then generally it's more evident. But I mean, that's a really good way to make sure that because obviously that puts additional pressure on your foundation. So if there's a minor crack or whichever,
exactly. Well, if this is frozen, all that roof water, snow is melting, and it's just coming right off your gutters. And realistically, they're not working right now.
Right.
Which means all that water, all that surface area of your water is coming right down next to your foundation, causing issues. And we see a lot of that too.
Yeah, putting pressure on anything that's not not great. So
also think of it this way, is not to over-explain, but all this water, basically you're having these cold nights, warm days. So the warm days, the water, everything's starting to melt and run off your house. But then by the middle of the night, everything's frozen. So that water that just struck next to your foundation wall, that saturated the soil, instead of waiting for it to dry up, it just froze.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you start seeing issues with your foundation. And you're like, oh, I wonder why. And we look down and either we see that in the downspout, or we see this rut next to your foundation wall. That's just the water hitting the soil. Right. And we could say, well, obviously your eaves trough is not working 100%. And the worst times for this to happen is during that warm days, cold nights situation.
Yeah, because it keeps adding pressure. Yeah.
Adding more hydrostatic pressure, adding more.
But it's interesting how a lot of what you're saying there too is fairly minimal, but most people don't do that.
Yeah.
But if you have any type of issues with the foundation, it just adds pressure, and that's where you can see water infiltration or something that happening. So
another big issue not big issue, but another thing that some people don't realize is when they buy a new home, the eaves trough isn't part of the home.
Oh, right.
And they don't actually get it installed. And by not installing it for the first so many years, that can really shorten the lifespan too.
Yeah. Your timer's off, but that's okay. Yeah. The timer's off, yeah. No, that's fair.
Oh my God. Okay, fair enough.
So Crawlspace encapsulation, I'm a bit fascinated with this because this is kind of first crack at understanding exactly what that means. So, because you referred to, I think on the website we saw that crawlspace encapsulation and proper dehumidifications typically aren't topics that most people even think about because their foundations are not subject to that.
Fair.
So, and I believe you guys prioritize these types of services.
We do, because it's a big issue.
Okay, yeah. So
definitely
educate us.
Not me. So let's say you have a home without a basement.
Yeah.
You have what we call a crawl space, and literally it's in the wording. You go underneath basically your living room, dining room floor, and you have about anywhere between a foot to about 4 feet high of a space. Some people, they actually go in it, they store things in there. Some people, if I don't see it, it's not an issue, right? And that's what we see a lot of. people are not aware of, especially if you're in like the rural areas, like maybe cottage country or something. That's more predominant as well, because those are how they were built in those areas. Now, what ends up occurring is either it's really old home or a newer home. You have basically a soil. You go down, you see soil or stone.
Okay.
And what ends up happening
Even
is
in newer properties, they still have that?
even in newer properties, yes. Well, they will put like a vapor barrier, like
Okay.
plastic sheeting, which really does help.
Okay.
Is it long term? In my opinion, I don't really see it being long term. Over time, you'll see that vapor barrier. Over time, it'll turn yellow. It'll start to rip and tear. If anyone goes under there for any utilities, it's usually on stone, so it ends up with holes everywhere. Right. So the problem with having stonework or soil underneath in your crawl space is, let's say you take a canoe and you put it outside, because we're Canadian, right?
Yeah.
We put that outside upside down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Wait overnight, wait till the next morning, and you flip it over. And you start noticing there's all this condensation inside the canoe.
Right.
Because moisture is always coming out of the soil. That is just the way it is, especially after a rainy day or what have you. You're going to have that occurring. So think of that happening in your crawl space itself. So all of this moisture gets trapped in there. What we want to do is we want to stop that moisture from getting in there altogether. So we have our encapsulation system. So we wrap the floors all the way up the walls, so it keeps it at bay. We have a system underneath, so if there is water and moisture collecting, it basically can dissipate and basically dry out.
But is that concrete or is that...
No.
No?
Concrete is a very expensive method as
So
well in those situations.
When you say the encapsulation, what is that? What is that?
It's like a drainage board, or sometimes we'll even have, like, depending how much water, right? Okay. There's a difference between if it floods and if you're just dealing with moisture.
Sure.
But this whole system is supposed to keep more moisture from getting out of your crawl space. You'll notice if you're having issues, if you don't go into your crawl space, you'll have really humid days. If you get one of those monitors to see what your moisture level is, they're going to be worse in the middle of summer, especially when it's 90% outside. It's going to be a lot higher down there, right? But all of that moves up into your living space as well. We call that the stack effect. So all of this, hot air rises, it creates a pull. All of that kind of comes up. The problem with having moisture inside your crawl space is you're going to have, over time, mold will start to grow on the wood. Wood really shouldn't be kept in moist or damp areas. Two things occur: mold, and also it starts to bow. And those are basically
all the floor joists. Floor joists,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll start noticing as your floor joists will start to basically kind of smile, right? They start to kind of bow and bend.
In a bad way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, precisely. So those are the two instances. One is mold. Obviously, it's a health risk for yourself. And number two is the structural issues, right? You're going to have your floor start to slope. Your tiles are going to start to crack. And those are usually the evidence symptoms you see upstairs. So what we want to do is we want to encapsulate it, stop more moisture from getting in that space, and then we want to dehumidify it with the proper equipment. Okay. Right? You can put a regular dehumidifier in there. It will take the moisture out of the air. But, if your floor joists have so much moisture in them already, then we recommend drying them out. And that's so that they can stabilize, they stop moving. This is not going to re-straighten your floor, but at least you've created a good space for them down there as well.
But would somebody consider doing that as a preventive measure? Or is it, because I assume once you're, like you say, your floor joists are smiling, it's not a good, it's not smiling. Your bank account won't smile.
No, for sure.
So like typically somebody who has a home that, that has a crawl space and is subject to these types of issues, like what's the recommendation before they get into issues where there are damages now that are essentially, floor joists that bow are not good. Yeah. And it brings, a lot of work to the table. So at what stage should they do that? Should they do that right at the beginning when the house is built, or in my opinion, just monitoring the humidity and then realizing that, what is the recommendation to somebody listening to this?
Well, in my opinion, if I were to buy a brand new house and I saw a crawl space underneath, I would encapsulate it right away.
Okay.
Because I see what happens over time. It's not just bowing joists. If you really don't pay attention to it, then you start getting wood rot, you start getting bigger issues, right? And anything, wood in that environment is going to take a hit. So that includes beams, joists, your floor itself, a lot of different things that can occur, right? We see them when we get called when there's an issue. So that's something we always try to keep in mind too.
So you would recommend getting that done essentially at the beginning.
Because if you wait, and let's say it's been like this for 50, 60 years, the problem is some people are like, I'll just do it next year. I'll just do it next year. Oh, I'll just do this next year. That turns into 40 years really quick, surprisingly enough.
Of course.
But then when we go down there, okay, let's encapsulate, let's dehumidify.
And hopefully before there's any damage.
Yeah, and if we do it right away, all we have to do is encapsulate. But if we get there after the fact, we got to encapsulate, or we recommend encapsulating, dehumidifying, and then possibly sistering joists, fixing structural issues.
And do you do that?
Pinnacle points, yes.
Okay.
We do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've had to redo complete joist systems too, as well. We bring in an engineer, we see it's bad, but obviously if we got to redo these, we need the engineer to take a look. The engineer takes a look. He says, yeah, this is far gone at this point. Just doing simple fixes is not really going to be good for the entire outcome, right?
And even in crawl spaces like this, as well as is the mechanicals for these houses in there, like the furnaces, are they typically
a lot of the times, yes.
Yeah, so that even from that standpoint of preserving the integrity of the equipment,
yep,
you would think that you don't want that exposed to too much humidity.
Exactly, like the furnace will start to rust.
Yeah.
And if you have your furnace down there, it's pulling even more of that environment up to the rest of your house too.
Right.
Right. All the ducting for intakes are not always fully sealed, so they will constantly pull, as well as the furnace itself. Right?
And it would be fair to say that if you go through that encapsulation project, that you can use then the furnace, the crawl space to store stuff and still be it'd be like storing something in the house.
Precisely.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people ask, what's the difference between should I encapsulate or should I pour this floor? So you can always pour the floor, but that means everything has to be leveled, everything has to be dug down, there has to be the substrate of that clear stone as well as the concrete, and then on top of all that, do you know how hard it is to get a chute into a crawl space and then somebody to go out and flatten it out on their hands and knees?
Especially on how, depending on how.
The costs of doing it are pretty abysmal sometimes. So it really depends, right? So it's easier to bring this malleable material down there and do the work than to come in and try to pour a whole new concrete floor.
Interesting. That's all stuff I didn't know. That's awesome. Great. Also, that's what we have here.
Also, if you're down there doing service work, crawling on concrete is not great for your hands and knees and elbows.
Just crawling,
So I've done that before.
I can imagine. So, and we also saw that Procore emphasizes correct methodology over shortcuts.
Yes.
Right. And can you share, say, a time or where the proper system or technique dramatically change the outcome of the project? Because obviously simple fixes, as you were saying earlier, you allude to the fact that a house that the floor had started moving and you saw a bunch of fixes, and obviously that it's just a band-aid over the problem. But
exactly.
Yeah. So how does Procore essentially would look at it? Would you do a patch job essentially if an owner wanted to, or?
We have been asked to. We do our best not to, and realistically, most of the time we just say no. I'm sorry. At this point in time, we prefer not to do this methodology because then all of a sudden our name is involved, and
that's the issue.
We don't really exactly. And if you sell the home, we don't want them saying, "Oh, Procore did this." Well, we want to do a better job than that. We'd rather have a stronger name. Just going right back to our last conversation, we've had a lot of instances we've shown up. And clients of sister joists because they started having bowing, sloping issues, rot issues. So they'll sister the joists. They'll add jack posts. I've personally gone into crawl spaces. It's not a very big house, but they had about 23 jack posts.
Oh.
Because they just kept fixing. That's a very expensive over time method. If you don't take care of the moisture and the moisture getting into that area, causing these issues, then you're going to continuously add more wood, add more joists, add more jack posts, add more footings, and you're going to do all of that.
Because you're not resolving the actual issue.
Exactly, yeah. And then you'll see jack posts put on top of soil, and you're kind of looking at that. Or like, a little patio stone, and that's their footing, and we're going, well, they go, why is it moving? I'm like, well, the patio stone cracked, firstly. Secondly,
professional, reliable, local. Dore Property Management has been Ottawa's choice for 20 plus years. Call 613-227-0000 or visit dorerentals.com.
and you kind of go through these little methodologies.
Another really patio stone there.
Exactly.
I was just going to say, I don't think that's the right way to do it.
Another one would be another example that we had of someone in Chelsea where they had the foundation wall was pushing inward. So their answer was we're going to add more and more concrete. Now, this homeowner didn't know any of this occurred. But when we were doing an investigation, we did notice
putting concrete inside the house?
Inside the house, yes, to try to reinforce it, right? So that it's pushing in. So like, okay, we're going to add metal, we're going to do concrete and everything else. This kind of turned into almost a 4-foot fix because they just kept adding layers and layers and layers. We had to remove all of that. Thick, yeah, just constant. And it wasn't just one big pour. It was just layers upon layers upon layers. And it got to the point where there were a couple times where they weren't using rebar. They used a bed frame. They used wire mesh. They were throwing everything in there to try to create more structural stability. So, I mean, some of it you're like, okay, that kind of made sense. Some of it we're like, okay, this was definitely freeballed. But realistically, it cost more money to remove all of that concrete, to remove the foundation wall, and then replace the wall than if they just came back and did it properly the first time.
And am I assuming this had something to do with the outside of the house?
Well, that's exactly it. It's all that frost pushing in, right? Making
that's just the wrong fill next to the house, just pushing in.
Yeah. So instead of taking care of the water,
was that the cause?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
And instead of going outside and taking care of the water, instead of going outside and redirecting it and putting frost protection on the foundation wall, they kept adding layers upon layers upon layers upon layers inside.
Yeah. So it doesn't make sense.
So doing the full fix where we were already doing the exterior, we had to remove all of that interior work, and that took quite a while. It's not an easy fix.
But it makes for good Instagram pictures. Look at this, look at what we fixed here.
Oh my goodness, yeah. We got a picture of that bed frame too. That was that's a funny thing to find.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's awesome. We should put that in the video. It's so the funny, and you're making me think. We're talking about support posts. Years ago, we go into a property and we had pointed out that the floor had started bowing, and it's like something's off, and whichever. Yeah. And we bring somebody. I forget exactly if it was an engineer or foundation or I forget exactly. But we're going in through this property. There's a tenant living in this unit, and at one point they come in, they take measurements, and they're like, "Wow, there should be a support post like right here." Yeah. Right, because you could see like the span is too long. Anyway, So anyways, he's taking measurements to do that. And he said, I think if we do this, I think it'll resolve the issue because there doesn't seem to be too much other issue. So as we're saying this, the tenant's like, no, don't put a support beam there. A support post there. We're like, why? He says, well, there was one there before, but when I'm sitting on my sofa, I can't see the TV. It's in my eyesight.
It's in my way.
Because I'm the one that removed it. Oh my gosh. Goodness. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, and the whole building is... like,
for sure. No, I get that. Yeah.
Ouch.
There are a lot of situations where clients will say, okay, well, if you're going to fix it this way, just fix it that way. And we go, well, we need an engineer involved. And they're like, well, you already know how you're going to fix it. We go, yes, but we need to abide by municipality codes. If the city finds out that we did this and we didn't have them involved, then you're going to get in trouble. We're going to get in trouble.
Do you need permitting to when you're fixing?
So it depends if you're doing additional, if you're replacing, or if it's just a situation that is just kind of out of your hands. Yes, sure. I mean, there's a lot of situations. There's municipalities change also because we're doing work all around, right? We go all the way up to Pembroke, pretty much all the way over to Montreal, all the way down to Cornwall, past Kingston, and we're also doing the whole Quebec section as well, right? So we're doing
you're going into
quite a
Quebec
bit
as well. Okay.
Yeah, we have all of our certifications and laws exactly. So we have to keep that in mind, but we always try to stick with the most stringent policies so that nobody gets burnt. But again, like I said, many situations where we need that as well.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I mean, it's a reputational risk for you as well. You want to do the right thing, and then like you said, you fix the problem. The next person buys the building, learns that you were involved. You kind of want to be the person that acted, the team that actually did the work the right way, and not have your name attached to something that it was shoddy. So
for sure, we're very well known that if something was misplaced or out of place, to come back, redo the work, fix it. So we do our best to uphold our name and uphold our warranties too, right?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And one of the questions we always ask, we ask also, any BS that comes in, we ask them if they have anybody on social media they follow within the realm of the industry that you're involved in. Yeah. And you didn't really list anything, and which is okay. Yeah. But I mean, from your perspective in what you're doing, is there associations where you learn about new techniques, new processes, and so on? And
of course. I mean, we definitely follow the accredited CNSCT of over in Quebec. So they have a lot of rules and regulations as per how to get it done.
Sure.
Obviously, there's a lot of rules and regulations on the Ontario side as well, but we also know that some of them get very vague. So we have a lot of input from local inspectors. and what they're looking for, exactly how they want to get it done. Engineers are always a great resource as well. So they tell us, it's best to do it this way, maybe do it this way. We create general practices as well within our company as well to train out.
Yeah.
It's really hard because we're also constantly looking for new innovations, new ways of dealing with things, right? So we work really closely with Rhino carbon fiber. So a lot of our reinforcement comes from there as well.
Okay. You mean the material?
The material, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But they also have engineers that back up all their products too. And they do help design our jobs as well at times with their engineers. So, I mean, there's a lot that we take sources from, because as we're going through these ages, the homes keep changing.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you show up to an issue, the problem can be very different from one to the other.
Exactly. Right. And every situation is personable because it depends what decade it was built, because different regulations were imposed at different times. It depends who built it, because some builders did it differently, especially back in the day when the rules and regulations were a lot more lax than they are today. Also, it depends if, let's say, this homeowner or the previous homeowner tried fixing it different ways.
Right.
So we see a lot of patchwork, a lot of fix work. And as much as I fully, if you see something and you want to try doing it yourself the first time, 100%, you're going to learn about how it's done. Yeah. You might spend a bit of money and your time, but you're going to get knowledge from it, right? So normally we get called after the fact. But obviously when it's a bigger structural issue, we definitely recommend having the proper people in place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it would be fair to say, based on what you mentioned before, even the municipalities have different guidances, and I would even dare to go say that even the inspector, because I mean we've been involved in different inspection scenarios, and it could be very different from one to the other in the same municipality with the same codes, with the same everything.
Yeah.
You get a switch in staff, and next thing you know, you've got a different set of requirements.
It's true.
So I'm not sure if I can just...
Whenever we have inspectors involved, it's always the question. We try to have a conversation, say, hey, what were you expecting? What were you looking for? And how can we actually better our improvement? Because you have to take a look at it. Building code is very, very, it's the bare minimum we find. So we go above and beyond that. So if you go by building code, you have your damp proofing practices, right? We want to waterproof your foundation wall. We want to make sure that you're not going to have an issue in the next 40, 60 years kind of thing, right? Yeah. We want to go past that expectancy of a new home. And if you look at a new home, they damp proof and they put a drainage board on there, and then that's what they need to sell the home, right? 100%, you're doing everything by building code, right? Well, we're going to do a proper rubberized membrane on your foundation wall, drainage board down to weeping tile, a healthy bed of clear stone that we have taken from engineers' advices, and then we're going to backfill with regular material, and then go on our way. And that's going to give you the best protection in our eyes. Yeah. That's well above general practice. Yeah. And again, we have a good reputation and a good name.
No, that's awesome. And would it be fair to say as well, I mean, I'm just envisioning, we buy a building, you get an inspector, we do our own inspections and so on, but what you're talking about is a bit more specialized in many cases. And, have you ever been called upon, where somebody's buying, obviously we're involved in multifamily stuff, where they'll come in as an expertise, they see an issue and they're like, can we just go beyond and just disinspect it as part of our due diligence? And I mean, one of the things that I can just imagine would be difficult to find for anybody just visually is the health of the weeping tile.
Yes.
Like, how would you know unless there's an issue that the weeping tile is not functioning as planned?
No, for sure. Keep in mind, inspectors, home inspectors, they do a lot. We get a lot of recommendations from home inspectors as well, right? And we'll have a few page essay. Sometimes we'll have a 90-page essay. I read through one the other day. Yeah. And they're great, but home inspectors have so much to cover. Right. They have attics, electrical, plumbing, insulation, everything from the bottom of the foundation all the way up to your attic venting, So there's a lot to cover. What can you see? What can, if you start seeing white efflorescence, white powder on the walls, if you start seeing really high moisture issues in your basement, again, which is hard to see sometimes because in your basement, if it's finished, you have insulation, wood, drywall, vapor barrier, everything's in between that and your foundation wall. So unless you start taking walls out, it is hard to see it 100% for a fact, and we understand that too, right?
Yeah.
But looking for foundation cracks and looking for that white efflorescence material, looking for little wet points, seeing how the humidity is really goes a long way when you're going in and buying a home, right?
Yeah.
And taking care of that.
And a weeping tile, I mean, obviously, is it a matter of, doing a camera, going in and seeing? Is it, if somebody had any concerns or any, they were doing an inspection, is that an offering to do? Or,
we actually call them inspection kits.
Okay.
Inspection pits, my apologies.
Okay.
Basically, we go down, we're going to check your weeping tile. We're going to basically every time we go to a foundation, we take a picture of the weeping tile so that we can see how it's doing. And we have visual reference for the homeowner as well.
Sure.
We're going to see, again, there is also this service of running a camera through to see how it's doing around the corner.
Yep.
But that also has its limitations too, right?
Okay.
If you suddenly, there's a bunch of curves and corners, well, the camera can't quite fish through that.
Okay.
So suddenly we have to do another dig, and then we have to do another dig. So we're trying to do our best to satisfy the concerns, but also the more thorough of an investigation you do, the more work needs to be done too, right? So,
and typically, I mean, you usually only do that if you had concerns with something that's showing inside the building, or you're not seeing something. So.
And if there's no issues, then no one's really going to question it, right?
Yeah.
But to go over and buy a new house and try to get these inspection pits and everything done before you buy the home, that's a little unrealistic.
It's a bit tough.
Unrealistic.
Unless you see an issue, but because they can be intrusive, but they're expensive to fix. So that's why, especially you're buying something that's 40, 50, 60 years old. I mean, they're prone to that type of stuff, right? So
they are. But also keep in mind, older homes were built a lot more solid.
Interesting. Okay.
So when you have a tree trunk running across your floor, holding up your home, well, you don't get that these days.
No. Right. That's a good point. So Corey, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for your
time. Obviously, I knew that you made it look easy. Like you do this every day. You said it's your first podcast. I don't believe you.
Appreciate it. I did my best. I think it was you, though.
No. It's all you. Anybody interested in, if anybody's interested in learning more about Procore or you, like, what's the best ways? At the website? I know.
That's a good question.
A lot of the social media, like, what is there anywhere where they can see what you guys do or how to reach out to you?
Well, realistically, you can always reach out to us. We're always ready and willing to answer any questions. Obviously, we'll show up for a free estimate to see how things are doing. Basically free inspection to see what's going on, what could be preventing it, and then kind of give you a quick, this is how we can take care of it. But as for that, I mean, a lot of our social media kind of shows, we have a video about our dehumidifier, kind of questioning pros and cons. We have about our jack post, how it takes care of it, how, it kind of goes beyond what we expected. That was an interesting one because we were looking at all the jack posts and nothing really kind of fell within our realm of fixing the issues that we keep seeing, right? You see jack posts in a crawl space and they're painted, but then they keep rusting at the base. They can't really hold as much as we want them to. You start dealing with all these different sizes, let's just take care of one that will never have an issue getting, even if it's sitting in a puddle. It's not going to rust and corrode. It's engineered for that, right? So we had our jack post engineered for our work, our type of work.
Oh, interesting.
You're not going to use this jack post up on the second floor.
No.
But for a basement or a crawl space, it definitely goes a long way.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah. So if you ever...
what is the website again? It's
ProcoreFoundations.com.
ProcoreFoundations with an S.com.
Yeah. And we also have our Instagram. We have our TikTok.
Facebook and YouTube.
Yeah.
Facebook and YouTube. My apologies.
I'm the same way. We're all looking at it. Where are we exactly?
My apologies.
Yeah.
And our phone number and email.
Yeah, what's the phone number?
It's a good question. I know my number.
Yeah. We'll put it in the video.
Yeah, we can put
it's all good. No, we have fun. I'm the same way. I'm like, what is it? What's it?
Sorry.
No. It's all good.
We're looking at all the solutions and everything else. No, fair enough. At least you have it written down. Yeah, seriously.
No, it's all good.
But other than that, realistically, we're always open for one-on-one. We're at the home shows as well.
In January?
So we do it the spring and the fall home show as well. So if you have any questions,
Center?
Exactly.
Okay.
So you can come over and come have a chat with us as well.
Oh, that's good.
And we're constantly kind of doing little things as well. So if you look at our promotional pages, Instagram, YouTube, and our website, it does show when events are coming up that we will be attending as well.
Okay. Oh, that's great. That's awesome. So on that note, to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Dore Podcast.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Corey's first podcast. I don't believe him. I think it's like his 100th. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a new episode.
Perfect. Thank you.
Until the next time, I'm Dan Dore. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Dore Podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or investor focused on real estate in Ottawa, we want to hear from you. Apply to be a guest and check out our video content anytime on YouTube.